The first time I remember discussing asexuality with somebody is in middle school, where me and my friend talked about how somebody else we knew had recently come out as asexual. We both agreed that it was a really young age to know that about yourself, but we accepted it and we just kind of brushed it off. And little did I know then that, while at the time I hadn't really thought about my sexuality that much, I would soon start to identify with the asexual label after a very long period of time where I really struggled with who I was. And the thing is, it's kind of a weird identity. You don't really realize that something is different about you until you're much older. You know, when you're a kid, you don't really think about like kissing people or anything like that because you're not supposed to. You're supposed to be focused on school or playing or having friends and going on play dates and hanging out with people, and it just doesn't really cross your mind as something that you have to think about or identify with. And in middle school, you start to hear some interesting stories from your friends. For me, my friend started dating at the time, and that was my first time hearing about a sexual experience somebody had that wasn't very medical or very like, this is how babies are made type of discussion. And then when you're in high school, it starts to really feel off. You don't really have an interest to go after people like your friends do. And that's kind of the age where you're supposed to have your first kiss, or you're supposed to get your first love and really explore, I guess. And it just never happened for me. I should preface this by saying that asexuality and aromanticism, being aromantic, asexuality and being aromantic is a spectrum, and it's going to be different for a lot of people, but this is just my experience with it and my struggles with it. So in high school, things start to feel like they're wrong, but you can kind of brush it off as maybe you're a late bloomer, maybe you're just focused on getting to college and getting good grades and working a part-time job. In college is kind of where that illusion falls apart. You are a fully developed adult by this point, and there's a lot of hookup culture, and everybody your age has dated or is dating or is hooking up, you know? And that is cool. I think that even though I am in college and I don't directly partake in, you know, this kind of like hookup culture, and like I don't directly date people, there's still a lot of the college experience that I do get to experience, which is cool. And I'm glad I'm able to do that. But you really start to feel like a child. It's such a weird feeling. It really just feels like you missed a certain like key checkpoint. You're doing a Mario Kart like super shortcut. And you missed a ton of key checkpoints through your life, and it kind of messes with your head, and it comes with a lot of self-doubt because of that. It's not just self-doubt in, you know, your dating life, your relationships, but at least in my experience, I started feeling like a child in school, in my hobbies. I think that being asexual is part of why I have such low self-esteem. Just because I never feel like I know what I'm doing. And would me getting in a relationship fix all of my self-esteem issues? No. But it adds up over time. And it's difficult. It's really difficult to deal with. Recently, I've struggled a lot with jealousy too. I've actually struggled with that my whole life, but recently it came up again and I remembered, like, oh, this is who I am. This is just me. And there's really a big desire there for you to be someone. It's a really, like, it's like, you really just, I'm stuttering a lot, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to think, and really work through my words. I'll talk about that more at the end, but there's a huge desire there to be picked over somebody else, to be this person's favorite. And I think we all probably have that to some extent. It's kind of a key point of why people want relationships, is to have that one person, that soulmate, that person that's waiting for you at home, that's your rock, your better half. And when you don't want to date, you know, or if you do want to date, it's very complicated. You don't really get the chance for that. Maybe I'll talk about jealousy in some other video, but the bigger picture is that asexuality makes relationships weird. And maybe I do want a relationship in my future, but I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know who I want it to be. If I just want, to be somebody's, like, one person, maybe. I don't know. It's a lot that's up in the air. And, with all the struggles that come with it, there have been times where I've really begged to not be like this, to have an experience that is almost impossible for me to have. And it's difficult. But once I accept that, and as I get closer to accepting who I am, including my asexuality, it really helps me understand the rest of my life, understand my identity, understand that, yeah, I am an adult and I know what I'm doing, understand that, yes, people will choose me for whatever reason. It's something that, as you slowly lockpick at your brain and lockpick about what makes you, you're gaining bits of who you are, and you're gaining the bigger picture slowly over time. It's not always fun, but we all have things that aren't fun about ourselves, and I don't want it to seem like I am totally internally hated my sexuality. I actually think it makes my life a lot simpler in some ways. People always complain about, I feel like if you aren't asexual or aromantic, there is a big pressure to either be in a relationship or be working on getting in a relationship, and there's not a lot of focus given to the period of time in between relationships, when being alone, being in silence, having nobody that is waiting on you or that you're waiting on is a lot of times where your growth comes from as a person. I'm not saying you can't grow if you are in a long-term relationship, but, people always talk about, really understanding themselves when they're single. And I think that's part of it. I think that's a benefit to it. I also think it has helped me really appreciate my friends more and appreciate having friends who love me and choose me. And is that all one person? Is that all, put into one person? No. But I have enough spread out between the people in my life that I care about to where I don't feel the need for that one single person as much. Also, if it weren't for a lot of expectations that I have, that the world has for me, I think I'd be chilling, like, a lot more than I'm chilling right now. I may or may not want a relationship in my future, and that is genuinely so cool with me. I have people in my life who are older, not like old, but who are like actual like adults that don't have a relationship, or as far as I know, they just have a lot of good friends. And maybe that shows that we're more disconnected and we're less likely to have long-term relationships or something. Or maybe that shows we're just more able to recognize when we're happy alone. And you're never really alone. You're always with people. There's always people out there that care about you. And even if you don't realize it, there's still people out there that care about you. So it's very complicated. And I don't really have a clear ending except for that. Thank you for watching. I wanted to do this because I wanted to work on my public speaking, my self-improvement diary, and I wanted some time to sit with my thoughts and get them out into a format that is accessible for me to make and also would be accessible for you to watch. If you're watching, I hope that this brought you some relaxation, maybe, because it is almost ASMR, or some, I guess, like solace, maybe. Anyway, this is my first time doing this after many attempts, and I think it turned out pretty well compared to my other attempts. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you later.